This is Cynthia Head. I am here yet again to help us work through Form 0661C. This is the officially released test that the ACT puts out there. This was an official test that students took one time, and so it's a reliable practice for you. So I am new to this process of taking the test and recording it and thinking out loud. And it took me an hour and 12 minutes to get through passage 1 and 2. So today, now, we're working on passage 3 and 4 from this 2008 English section of the test. So my goal is 3 o'clock. My goal is to get the last 2 passages done within an hour. Okay, so maybe I'll be a little more decisive in moving on with my answer choices. But I do want you to hear a little bit of what's going on in my head. All right, so here we are, passage 3. I've taken a little break and now I'm ready to jump back in. I don't know how I'm going to do on this. I'm hoping that I do well. So, but it's a mystery for us all. So there'll be we'll check it at the end. We'll see how it turned out. All right. In 1970, so wearing jeans in school. In 1970, the school board in Pittsfield, New Hampshire, approved a dress code that prohibited students from wearing certain types of clothing. That seems very vague. What types of clothing? It could be, you can't wear swimsuits to school. All right, so let's see. Given that all of the choices are true, which one would best illustrate the term dress code as it is used in this sentence? Okay, so keep students from wearing certain types of clothing that was inappropriate. Certain types of clothing, including sandals, bell-bottom pants, and dungarees. Clothing that is permitted in some schools today. Okay, so we need, it seemed just like that first one, clothing, just from the get-go felt like a little very vague. Like, but certain types of, given that all of them are true, which one best illustrates the term dress code as it's used in the sentence? So best illustrates certain types of clothing that was inappropriate, certain type of clothing, including sandals, bell bottoms, and blue jeans. So I think going for a more specific illustration is the best way to go instead of just like the vague, inappropriate clothing. That gives it a little more definition. So we'll see. All right, 32. The school board members believed that wearing play clothes to school made the students inefficient toward their schoolwork, lazy and bored to tears with their schoolwork. So ACT wants it to be more a concise communication, but also you have to think through like the style of it, okay? The school board members believe that wearing play clothes to school made the students, and actually the fact that it says play clothes there kind of clues me into that maybe the sandals, not being able to wear sandals, play clothes. So that actually kind of gives me a clue to number 31 as well. Okay. Made students blow off their schoolwork, while more formal attire established a positive educational climate. Okay. I think the answer is F, because if it's going to use the word attire here, that it's a little more formal in tone. Whereas you wouldn't say blow off if you're going to have that kind of, so that doesn't work. Lax and indifferent, to me, those have a very similar, so it's kind of redundant there. Lazy and bored to tears with. So this is way too casual too. So if I would maybe be interested in J, but I feel like it's redundant to say lax and indifferent. It's repeating itself. So let's go with the school board members believe that wearing play clothes to school made the students inefficient toward their schoolwork, while more formal attire established a positive educational climate. All right, let's keep moving. When 12-year-old Kevin Bannister wore a pair of blue jeans to school, he was sent home for violating the dress code. So that also informs that maybe this was the right choice. Okay, that makes me feel better about that too. All right. Kevin and his parents believed that his constitutional rights had been violated. All right. Given that all the choices are true, which one would most effectively introduce? So we're going to introduce the main idea of this paragraph. Okay. So we got to consider the paragraph when trying to decide that. Okay. So I'm not even going to read the answer choices yet. I'm going to see if I was going to introduce this paragraph. I'm literally like covering the answers with my hand. If I was going to introduce this paragraph, what are some things I would want to say? Okay. The U.S. United States District Court of New Hampshire agreed to hear Kevin's case. So we're talking about the blue jeans. His claim was based on the notion of personal liberty, the right of every individual to control his or her own person, protected by the Constitution's 14th Amendment. The court agreed with Kevin that a person's right for wearing clothing of his own choosing is, in fact, protected by 14th Amendment. The court noted, however, that restrictions may be justified in some circumstances, such as the school setting. So, did Kevin have a right to wear blue jeans in school? The court determined that the school board had failed to show that wearing jeans actually inhibited the educational process, which is guided by authority figures. Furthermore, the board offered no evidence to back up its claim that such clothing created a negative educational environment. Certainly, the school board would be justified in prohibiting students from wearing clothing that was unsanitary, revealing, or obscene. Interesting. Okay. So let's look back. Okay. So all right. So, given that all the choices are true, which one would effectively introduce the main idea of this paragraph? So there's a question of his rights according to the 14th Amendment. Okay. So Kevin and his parents believe that his constitutional rights had been violated. So that looks like looks like a fine sentence, to be honest. The principal said dungarees and blue jeans were the same thing, so Kevin should have known better. Well, that's not a very good topic sentence. If Kevin's jeans had been dirty and torn, the principal might have been justified in expelling him. These events occurred in a time of social unrest and emotions were running high. I think it does a fine job with the answer that's there. So no change. Probably spent way much more time on that than you could have anywhere close to, but it gives you an idea of how you could go about it if you have more time and it's the end of the test. This type of question is one that sometimes I suggest people to do after they finish the other parts of the test. All right, 34. Okay, so I see I see a comma, I see a semicolon. Anytime I see a semicolon, I think, okay, to the left of the semicolon, is it a complete sentence? If it's not, then that's not an option. So 34, the United States District Court of New Hampshire. Well, that's not a sentence. You got a subject there, but you have no verb. So F is incorrect. The United States District Court of New Hampshire, comma. Okay, so that's, oh, so there's, and then the other, so they're throwing in just random commas here. I think most people would get this right. H, no punctuation needed. If you're going to have a comma in there, you need to have a reason. And you don't want a comma right in between your subject and your verb. So that's no good. Okay? I think most would get that correct. All right. 35. Okay, of wearing to wear, wearing. So we've got some verbs going on here, potentially gerunds, prepositional phrases, or phrases there. The court agreed with Kevin that a person's right to wear clothing of his own choice. So on this one, that's just how we say it. A person's right to wear. Right for wearing, right of wearing, right to wear. That's an idiom. That's just how it would more naturally be said. And I don't have any more rules for you other than that. But that's the more natural way to say that. So we're going to go with C there. C. Okay. 36. The court noted. So when I see, however, in the middle of a sentence, you're going to set it off with commas. So if you miss this one, then next time, hopefully you'll get that right. If you see, however, in the middle of the sentence, set it off with commas like you see here. I don't even have to really look around and look any further. Okay. Now, another way that you could see, however, is a semicolon, however, and then a comma after it. Okay. But obviously that's not what's going on here. So no worries on that. But those are the two ways that you see, however. In the middle of a sentence, set off with commas, or with a semicolon, and you got a little comma after that. Okay, so there's your mini semicolon lesson. So did Kevin have a right to wear blue jeans to school? The court determined that the school board had failed to show that wearing jeans actually inhibited the educational process, which is guided by authority figures. So I do like commas before which. This is very appealing to me. And the fact that this has a comma before which, that makes it appealing to me. I see it's kind of like it's saying the similar thing, but maybe different lengths. So this makes me think I need to select the more concise answer, because they like to see if you're being redundant or if you're choosing concise, to the point, get to the point information. So the court determined that the school board had failed to show that wearing jeans might actually inhibit the educational process. All right, so my thought is it's going to be D, because this whole which undergone changes, so that's a process we all know well. That's repeating, and this is off topic. Okay, irrelevant. And then which is guided by authority figures. That's just throwing in an extra something. We just need to be straight to the point. Choose the short answer, D. Go for it with confidence. Furthermore, the board offered no evidence to back up. Okay, so pronoun, whenever you see this, you're going to say it is, or are we possessing something? Okay, so I'm going to check out F first. The board offered no evidence to back up it is claim. Would I say it is claim? No. So that is a contraction. We don't need it is. All right. Back to the board is acting as a single unit. Okay. So it's claim. Okay, so we're not there, not plural. Its claim. So its is the possessive. And it's to just kind of give you strength on that, it's referring to board. So it's acting as a collective noun, just one acting together. Okay. 39, its claim that such clothing created a negative educational environment. Okay. I think that is just fine. Offered to back up its claim that such clothing created a negative educational environment. So when you have a that, all that follows is necessary. If I would have put which there, I would need a comma before which. Okay, and I don't see a comma going on here, and it would also be saying that is following isn't necessary. It could be deleted out of the sentence, but we do need that in the sentence. So I'm going with that. That. All right. Yay. Let's move on. We're making progress. Okay. Oh. Now, we know from our previous situation that we like a comma before and after, however. Okay, so when I'm looking across here, I see the comma after unconvinced, and then I see commas after these others. So there's not a comma issue on 40. The court remained unconvinced. So if it's therefore, then you would have been looking at, so you're trying to think through what kind of transition is here. Okay. The court remained convinced. Therefore, let's just try it. Therefore, that when wearing jeans would actually impair the learning process of Kevin or his fellow classmates. Okay. So the previous thought here is saying that they couldn't back up and say that they couldn't prove that this gave a negative experience. So you do have to understand what's going on in the previous sentence to kind of understand what transition should be there. The board couldn't provide evidence. Now let's move this around where it says, I think I like putting it, I'm going to try to put this transition right here to see if it can feel a little bit better for me. Okay. The board couldn't provide evidence to back up its claim. Therefore, the court remained unconvinced that wearing jeans was a bad thing. Thus, the court remained unconvinced. However, the court remained unconvinced. Okay, so however is not the right one because it's moreover. So no, moreover is like I've said that the board couldn't do this. Moreover, they couldn't do this either. So if I was carrying on with like the board couldn't prove this, moreover, they couldn't prove that. So moreover, you're carrying on the same kind of thought. So nope, it's not going to be that. This is the board couldn't prove that jeans aren't a good thing. Thus, the court remained unconvinced that wearing jeans would actually impair the learning process. So, to be honest, I'm thinking, is it therefore or thus? I'm going to go with therefore because thus feels like a little, I don't know, it feels like a little like, I don't know, Old English. So, This happened, therefore that happened. The board couldn't prove, therefore the court remained unconvinced. So cause and effect. As far as this is the effect, they remained unconvinced. Okay, so we're gonna go with F, though, thus sounds like it could be right, but I'm gonna go with my gut and say that F is right. Okay. 41. So the court remained unconvinced, therefore, that when wearing jeans would actually impair that wearing jeans. So I'm just going to keep it simple. Wearing jeans, I'm not going to add in extra words that aren't necessary, that wearing jeans would actually impair the learning. Okay, let's not make it any more complicated than it has to be. Okay. Which choice would most effectively open this paragraph and convey the importance of this case? Okay. So I'm considering the paragraph here. Kevin Bannister's case was significant in that it was the first in the United States to address clothing prohibitions of a school dress code. His challenge initiated a review of students' rights and administrative responsibility in public education. Okay. I don't like G because it's just too broad. Therefore, Kevin's case reminds us that you should stand up for your rights no matter how old you are. This is not really an issue of age. This is not a topic about age. We're talking about, so it goes off topic. The case for personal liberty means the right to speak up must be taken seriously by the courts. It's just too broad, okay? It's too broad. It's not keeping to the point. All in all, clothing is an important part of our identity. That's way off. So these are, which choice would most effectively open this paragraph and convey the importance of this case? So this one doesn't even talk about the case. And these others are just too broad. Kevin's case was significant in that it was the first in the U.S. to address clothing prohibition. Okay. So I would let's go with F. These others are too broad, and you got to look for the importance of this case. So when you're seeing the most effective, sometimes it's good to circle what are we trying to establish there. 43. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, students, plural, possessive. Okay, so that's the first one that caught my eye, is that they're all students being students, plural. They're possessing rights. Okay, so since those are all the same, this is not testing our ability to test possessive. Okay, so we're going to put that aside. What skill is it testing us? Okay, so we got commas moving around. So this is a purely comma usage question. His challenge initiated a review of students' rights and administrative responsibility in public education. Okay. So you can, to feel comfortable with your choice, you can pause here. Okay. His challenge initiated a review of students' rights and administrative. Okay, so you don't this when you make this pause, not a necessary pause. Not a necessary pause here. Okay. So on C, Okay, there's no extra pauses going on. Okay. You might have been tempted by this, but you only do a comma fanboy when this second part is an independent clause. This would need to be an independent clause for a fanboy to go there. Administrative responsibility in public education. You have a subject there, but there's no verb there. Okay. So in this, so it's not going to be that because you're not doing a comma fanboy because no independent clause on the other side of that. So here you are, C. All right, no extra commas are necessary there. T. Okay. In public education, on public education, administrative responsibility in public education, on, with, about. Okay, so these are all, you're just thinking through, what is that prepositional idiom that just feels right there? An administrative responsibility in public. So we're going to go with 4, just kind of go on your gut on what feels right on that one. Suppose the writer's goal had been to write a brief, persuasive essay arguing students to exercise their constitutional rights. Would this essay fulfill that goal? So are they persuading you? Are they informing you? Those are the first questions that I would ask. And so before you look at the answers, okay, think to yourself, would it do that or would it not? And so my thought is, no, this is not it gives an illustration of people doing that, but I wouldn't say if the person was trying to write a persuasive essay saying, go out there and fight for your rights, I wouldn't say that's what this is. So I would go with no. So now that I've narrowed it down to no, let me see what the answer choices are. No, because the essay suggests that the right to wear blue jeans was not a substantial constitutional right in the 1970s. No, because the essay objectively reports on one case of a student exercising a particular constitutional right. So I feel like D is correct, but let me look at the others just to see what's going on. But I'm going to go ahead and mark D. A. Yes, because the essay focuses on how Kevin encouraged other students to exercise. Did he do that? No, he was just acting for himself. Yes, because the essay focuses on various types of clothing historically worn by students as a freedom of expression. No, those things were not happening in this article. So D, feeling pretty good about that. All right. So, yes, what I want to do, because I want gratification, I'm going to go ahead and check out how this went for us. Okay, let me pull out my blue color. I just like being able to reward myself with a blue. So let's see how we did here on this passage. All right. Okay. So question number 31. C. Yes. Feeling good. Like I should. 32, J. Oh, I got one wrong. 32 was J. Okay, now. All right. So I got it wrong. I chose made the students inefficient toward their school, lax and indifferent. So I guess lax and indifferent, those are different enough. So you have proof that your teachers are not perfect. Now you know. So I did not, so far, I'm curious to see what my score will be on this. So I should have chosen 32, the lax and indifferent. So lax, I think more kind of laid back. Now I'm gonna want to see kind of the definition on that. Inefficient toward, that feels like an awkward way to say that, but sometimes they don't want you to be redundant. So I felt like that's what they were going for. Oh well, that's okay. Life will go on. Hopefully this is okay. So I said I was going to give myself an hour to do all this. So I'm pretty close to being on track there. I might have to kind of hustle a little bit towards the end. Okay, 33. Let me be fast in this. All right. 33A, yes. 34H, yes. 35C, sweet victory. 36G, yes. 37D, happy about that. 38H, 39A. All right. What a relief. Okay, 40. How did I do? I don't know why I say what. Oh, okay now. If that makes you feel better, I'm happy. 40 was J. See, thus and therefore, they felt like the same. So the fact that those were kind of the same relationship kind of hinted. So I don't really, yeah, I think if given the situation again, I would have chosen J. I mean, I would not have chosen J. I'm not, that one is a little shocking. The other one, I get why I was wrong. J, that's a little shocking to me. If that makes you feel any better if you missed that one. 41, C. Whew. All right, I've missed two so far. 42, F. Yay. 43, C. 44, F. Redeeming myself. 45, D. Yay, sweet victory. Okay. All right, so now we've started a new passage, and I got to give myself some time. I got to get this done in 30 minutes. So move faster, Cynthia. Let's do this. Or Miss Head, I should say. Okay. All right, let's get with it. Okay, the case of the trick photographs. Bum, bum, bum. You might think that Sir A.C.D., the writer who invented Sherlock Holmes, the most logical of detectives, would have harbored strictly logical beliefs himself. But the author entertained a variety of fanciful ideas, including a belief in the mythical beings known as fairies. Since that belief, he was fooled in 1920 by two schoolgirl cousins. I'm going to go with, I feel like I need to be a little more concise and a little bit faster in my choices here. All right. I would say because of that belief. So there's a cause. Is that, and then the effect is this happened. Okay. One day, Esley Wright, E. Wright, if I don't know the name, I'll just put in the letter. E. Wright and Francis G. returned from a walk in the English countryside with news that they had seen fairies. They had even taken photographs that showed several of the tiny sprites, some dancing in a ring in the grass, some fluttering in front of the girls' faces. If the writer were to delete the opening sentence of this paragraph, the essay would primarily lose. Okay, so if we deleted that sentence, you might think of Conan Doyle, the writer of Sherlock Holmes, the most logical of detectives, would have harbored strictly logical beliefs. So I think if we would have taken that out, you wouldn't know the author that we're talking about or the reference that he wrote the book or that, it hints at the whole logical thing. Okay. Information that sets up a contrast. That's true. There is a contrast. An irrelevant but humorous digression. No. Information that explains Doyle's motivations. No. An important description of the setting. No. I would say A. It does give information that sets a contrast that follows. Okay. So now we're looking at the girls. So are we many girls? So unless this girl has two heads, it's not going to be girls, the one girl's faces. So and if F was correct, it would be a girl with multiple faces, right? One girl is possessing multiple faces, like a two-headed person. No. Okay. Girls, plural, and you're going to put the apostrophe on the outside if it's two girls and it's possessive. So it's going to be G. Two girls, you see the little cousins, okay, and their faces. They both have a face. That's going to be, and so this is the plural, two faces. So face, this would be the face possessing something. Okay. So that's not what we're looking for. 49. Many people were excited when they heard about this seemingly true and factual, okay, proof of the existence of fairies. When they were excited when they heard about this seemingly evident but apparent. Okay. Many people were excited when they heard about this apparent proof of the existence. So I'm leaning towards D because it likes concise communication. I'm just going to go with it. This apparent proof. Many people were excited when they heard about this apparent proof of the existence of fairies. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. The shorter answer, more directly to the point. Let's see. I don't know. 50. Okay, so I like that there are two commas around however. That's a good thing. Now we got to see, I see we got some pronouns. What is it referring to? That's going to answer our question. To make sure he wasn't being deceived, CD had the original photographic plates examined by experts. Now there's a comma there. So we got, I like commas in front of which. Okay, commas in front of which. Yes. Plates examined by experts, which found no evidence of double exposure. So commas before which, that's a good thing. Let me see if anything else. You can't say they found no evidence of double exposure. That creates a new sentence. To make sure that he wasn't being deceived, CD had the original plates examined by experts. Experts who found no evidence. Okay, so, okay. I'm really debating between G and H. And I've already missed 2 on this test. I really can't. I really don't need to miss any more. All right. To make sure that he wasn't being deceived, Conan Doyle had the original photographic plates examined by experts. Experts. Okay. So it's referring to experts. So experts who found no evidence of double exposure. Oh, I'm struggling on that still. I'll be honest. I don't know which way to go. Okay, I got to keep moving. Okay. I'm going to stay with who because it refers to a person. Experts. Okay. 51. He then wrote an enthusiastic article for Strand Magazine, being the place in which most of his Sherlock Holmes stories had first appeared, and later wrote a book on the subject titled The Coming of the Fairies. Okay. This whole being in the place is too wordy. Usually, if it's being is in the answer choice, it's not the right one. Okay. He then wrote an enthusiastic article for Strand Magazine. It makes me think in which B is just repeating too much. See, we got magazines here. We're not going to repeat magazines again. Usually, I'm going to say it's C. He then wrote an enthusiastic article for Strand Magazine in which most of his Sherlock Holmes stories had first had appeared, and later wrote a book on the subject, The Coming of the Fairies. He then wrote I think C. Okay. My brain is starting to go numb again. And I've got 15 minutes. Okay. Whew. All right. So I got to get, oh, mercy. Okay. All right. CD sent a copy of one of the photographs to his friend, Harry H., the famous magician and escape artist, who developed considerable effort who devoted considerable effort to exposing hoaxes involving spiritualism and was skeptical about existence of supernatural beings. Okay. Now I'm thinking that G is not it. When I see being, I'm like, no. And because I'm going to start being concerned about time, I'm just going to stop being. I'm going to just move. Okay. A little bit faster. Okay. CD sent a copy of one of the photographs to his friend Harry Houdini, the famous magician and escape artist, period. Houdini, he devoted considerable effort to exposing hoaxes involving spiritualism. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. See this comma? We got to have another partner to go with that comma. So probably it's going to be H. Okay. Who devoted considerable effort to exposing hoaxes involving spiritualism, comma, was skeptical. Okay, so Houdini was skeptical. So if you need to feel really good about this, remember those little phrases, non-essential that you're setting off with commas, take it out. And if you could say Houdini was skeptical about the existence of supernatural beings, okay? That comma here lets me know it needs a partner. There's its partner. Houdini was skeptical about the da 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 da. Okay. So if you did something else, you would be taking away the verb that you need there for that sentence. You got to have your subject and your verb for that sentence. If the writer were to delete the preceding sentence, the paragraph would primarily lose. Okay, the preceding sentence. Okay, if we took that out, Details that provide an explanation for the friendship between C and H. Information that helps set the stage for what happens next in the essay. A description of the reasons behind Houdini's skepticism about. So it doesn't give us the reasons that he's skeptical. It just says he is. Okay. Nothing at all, since this sentence provides irrelevant information. Okay. So I think it's going to be necessary. Let's see. I mean, depending on what happens. So he sent a photograph to Houdini. Houdini exposes this stuff. When Houdini remained unconvinced by the evidence, CD became angry. Okay. All right. Okay. So we need this information because it sets the stage over what's going to happen next. Okay. Next. Hang in there. 54. I see a comma before a fanboy. So if I see, that makes me think, okay, if there's a comma before a fanboy, this must be an independent clause. Is that true? Though the two remain cordial. No, that cannot stand by itself. Nope. So I'm going to mark out no change. Okay. Though the two remained cordial and their friendship was no. And though the two remained cordial, that their friendship, no. Though the two remained cordial, comma, their friendship was damaged. Okay. So that's just a little introductory clause at the beginning. All right, so you've got an introductory clause with a little comma following it, and then you've got your independent clause going after it. Okay? 55. Their friendship was damaged due to the fact that they had the disagreement. So this is making me think it needs to be very straight to the point, and it's being too kind of wordy. Though the two remained cordial, their friendship was damaged by the disagreement. Let's just make it simple. We don't have to make it harder than it has to be. Okay? Concise, straightforward communication. 56. Some 60 years later, okay, after some 60 years later, since some 60 years later, and then are you going to begin a new paragraph? Some 60 years later. Okay, so there's one where you're beginning a new paragraph, and there's one where you're tagging it on, you're keeping it here. That word some makes me think that there's going to be, it's a transition, so it needs a new paragraph, just off the top of my head. But let's see what's going on. So their relationship is damaged. Years later, elderly Francis Griffith publicly admitted that they had staged the photographs as a practical joke. Oh, little girls. So it needs to begin a new paragraph. This is it's talking about their argument, and now it's like some years later, they admit. So you're going to begin that since some is just weird. So Jay, let's go for it. 57. Admitted that her and her cousin, and herself, that she and her cousin, all right. So look, the way I'm going to analyze this one is, let's pretend this cousin business is not there. Admitted that she had staged the photographs. So I like she. Sometimes when you're working with pronouns, you have to take away other parts of it for the other parts to not feel kind of like, tempting. So admitted that she had staged the photograph. If I would have just left that part, you would not have fallen for all these other things. So that's the way I would, got to move things around sometimes to make it sound and feel right. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not, what would not be okay? Okay. Shortly after her revelation, computer enhancement revealed the hat pins that were used to prop up the cardboard cutout fairies. Isn't that pretty amazing? Okay. Shortly after her revelation, computer enhancement revealed that the hat pins used okay, I'm struggling here. Computer enhancement revealed the hat pins that were used to prop up. Okay. So that one's fine. So because that one's fine, okay, which of the following would not be acceptable? Computer enhancement revealed the hat pins that had been used. Okay. Computer revealed the hat pins the girls used, revealed the hat pins using, no, the hat pins used. Okay. So using. All right. My brain just froze. Listen, you are not alone. I was sitting here staring at this and I could not think. So you are not alone. My brain. It was just like, you know, when your computer has to reboot, and it's like, reboot. Okay. 59 out of 75. Let's go. All right. Scientific analysis finally closed the case of the trick photographs. Okay. So, which choice would best tie the conclusion of this essay to its opening sentence? All right. Okay. It's okay. So let's go back. Let's go back to the opening sentence. All right. You might think, okay, so he's talking about the whole Sherlock Holmes things and being detective and being logical. Okay. So if we're doing like a little bookend thing, we would go back to Sherlock Holmes and play into that logic maybe. Okay. All right. So the B mentions Sherlock Holmes. C mentions Houdini. So that doesn't circle back around to the opening sentence. So we can feel pretty comfortable. We didn't even mention Houdini till halfway through. So we know it's not going to be C. Okay. That was still in infancy. No, that doesn't. Okay. So if it's going back to the opening sentence had Sherlock Holmes, which would best tie to the conclusion of this essay. So okay, so the answer really is B. Now, I didn't plug that in yet. I'm just guessing based on, we talked Sherlock Holmes in the opening sentence, and here we are again. Scientific analysis of the kind of a modern day Sherlock Holmes might use, finally closed the case of the trick photography. So in the beginning, so sometimes in writing, there are the bookends. The beginning, you talk about something and you just kind of come full circle. And here we are closing the passage with Sherlock Holmes again. Nice little bookend. All right. So B is correct. All right. Suppose the writer had decided to write an essay that summarizes how beliefs and the supernatural have influenced the writing of famous authors. Would this essay fulfill the writer's goal? Suppose the writer had decided to write an essay that summarizes how beliefs in supernatural have influenced famous authors. Well, we're only talking about one author. So I would say no, because, and I'm going to try to come up with my answer before looking at it. We're only talking about how maybe it impacted the writer of Sherlock Holmes, but not if it was its goal, and it didn't even go too deeply into supernatural. So I would say no. No, because the essay argues that the author's belief in fairies and the supernatural did not in any way affect his writing. No, because the essay limits its focus to the particular events surrounding one author, right? One author's reaction to the evidence of the supernatural. So with pretty much confidence, I'm going to put that. Now, to be honest, I want feedback. I'm very curious to see how that went. And we are not making it within the hour. I can tell already. So, but yeah, it's okay. All right. So let's go. 46. 46. How did I do? 46 G. I hope you did an amazing job. 46 G. Yes, ma'am. 47 A. Boom. 48 G. Yes. 49 D. All right. 50 G. Feeling good. 51 C. I know I should be getting these right. I get that. But, we all need affirmation that we're doing the right thing. All right. 52 H. Yes. 53 B. Yes. 54 J. Yes. 55 D. Yes. 56 J. Yes. 57 C. Yes. 58 H. Yes. 59 B. Yes. Whew. And 60 J. Awesome. Okay, so all right. Well, I got to keep going, because if I don't keep going, I'm not going to know what my official score is. Right now, I'm down 2. All right. So, okay. I was tempted to just quit. Be honest. I was tempted to quit, but I'm not. I'm going to stay in there. All right. Emily Dickinson, one of America's great 19th century poets, was a prolific letter writer. Although her physical contact with the world was limited by caring for her invalid mother and by her own poor health, whose correspondence was extensive. Okay. So because, we're talking about her mother, I feel like I think we should say Dickinson again to emphasize. So let's do that. I'll check some different things, but my instinct is that it's going to be Dickinson's. Dickinson's correspondence was extensive, over 1,000 letters to upwards of 100 correspondents. Wow. That's interesting, because I used to think of her as a recluse, which I guess she was physically, but if she had over 100 correspondents, she's not as much of a loner as I've read. Anyway, I digress. Okay. By caring for her invalid mother and by her own poor health. Dickinson's correspondence. Okay, so I've got this little introductory that I'm setting off with a comma here. So I need a good solid subject here. Dickinson's correspondence was extensive. Now, I love punctuation questions. Let's talk about it. Okay, so if I see a semicolon, I'm thinking you got to have a sentence before it and a sentence after it. Okay, when I see a colon, I've got to have colon, I've got to have an independent clause here, and to the right can be anything. All right. So let's check the colon. To the left of it, Dickinson's correspondence was extensive. Okay. So that is a sentence to the left. All right. Over 1,000 letters to upwards of 100 correspondence. Okay. So it's not an independent clause on this side of it. Okay. I want you to notice here, look at this. Oh, I love these. If I was in a big hurry, then I would have chosen F immediately and wouldn't have spent all this time. Here's why. G, H, J, all three of those both do this. They join independent clauses. A period and a new sentence, a semicolon and a comma fanboy, both of them, ding, 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 or all three of them rather, all join independent clauses. The colon is the only one that the right side, it could be anything, okay? So with 100% confidence, it is F. Final answer. All right, 63. Dickinson's lifetime of letters range from playful to serious. As a young woman, she wrote, okay, so as a young woman, so I want a comma after that woman. As a young woman, comma, she wrote of pining for a Valentine. All right, I wanted that to say that. Let's see what our options are though. As a young woman, okay, so she wrote. So this, I'm not liking C because I don't like that comma after wrote. You don't. She wrote of pining for a Valentine. You want all that to go together. You don't want an awkward pause in between that. As a young woman, she wrote of. Okay, so as a young woman, comma. All right, the first one, I've already said I want that comma after as a young woman, comma. Okay, so our choices are: do we want it to begin a new paragraph, or do we want it to be at the end? So Dickinson's lifetime of letters range from playful to serious. It seems weird that you would start a new paragraph right after you started a new paragraph. So, and it illustrates the kind of letters, playful to serious, pining for a Valentine. That's a type of, she's illustrating now. So we're not gonna begin a new paragraph. As a young woman, she wrote of, okay, we're going to stay in that paragraph. I mean, it's only the second sentence into that. So why would we want to change? Okay. All right. All right. Visiting. So when I'm seeing this, I'm thinking maybe we want the most concise. As a young woman, she wrote of pining for a Valentine and of visiting the Chinese Museum in Boston. She wrote of pining for a Valentine and of her visiting to. of her visiting at and visiting to. Visiting to, just all of those. She wrote of pining for a Valentine and of visiting the Chinese. So it's kind of like a prepositional idiom. That's just how we say it. Okay. 24. Given that all the choices are true, which one best develops the paragraph's focus on the roles that letters played in Emily Dickinson' life? Okay. All right. Dickinson. So this is interesting. Okay. Her letters in later years revealed that she missed friends. So, yeah, a lot of the commentary on Emily Dickinson. Okay. Missed friends and are it's quite different than this, and encourage them to visit. Okay. Dickinson stayed in contact with correspondents for many years. In a teasing letter to her brother, she bemoaned the fact that a big barn fire couldn't have waited until he returned to see it, since he enjoyed such things. Okay. Given all the choices are true, which one best develops the paragraph's focus on the roles that letters played? Okay. So that first one is just, it's not very interesting. Dickinson stayed in contact with correspondents for many years. Her personal interests also included keen observation of natural wonder around her, the natural world around her. Though she produced volumes of letters, none were publicly shared. So this is off topic. We're not talking about that right now. Wouldn't fit in that paragraph. She enjoyed hearing their news and reflecting with them on political events. Okay, so this kind of shows kind of a back and forth. So the role that letters played in her life. So, D, I think best illustrates like she told about her life and she enjoyed reciprocating, hearing about their lives. Okay. So I believe that's a better choice. All right. So here, another punctuation. So what I'm noticing is a semicolon goes in between two independent clauses. Okay. A period and capitalizing, that's in between two independent clauses. And in this one, they're trying to introduce a subject. Okay. So for those like trying to get perfect scores and trying to move super fast, I would select H. Notice I haven't even read the sentence yet. But based on the way the ACT behaves, we're going to rule out F and J, because if F was correct, J would be correct also. All right. And G is very suspicious because it makes me think that it's adding in a subject verb. And there's like no punctuation there. Okay. All right. So now I would take that little shortcut based on how I know how the test functions. And I would really look at H. And if H was the right one, I wouldn't waste time analyzing those other ones, because if it's not F, it's not J. Okay, let's look at H. Other letters are solemn. Speaking of relatives and friends who, and then we're going to figure out that who had died. Okay, so let's go with H. Feel good about that. 67. Okay. Relatives and friends. And this is going for the subjective case. One way that you can kind of think through that is if you could put he had died who had died. Whom, you would put him in the place of, you wouldn't say him had died. You would say, more likely say he had died, not him had died. So that makes me think this needs to be the subjective form and not the objective form. Okay. Perhaps the correspondent who came to know Dickinson best through their 36-year exchange of letters was Emily's friend, sister-in-law, and neighbor, Susan Gilbert Dickinson. Susan was a spiritual, social, and intellectual companion for Emily. In fact, one letter, Emily stated that Shakespeare was the only person who had taught her more than Susan had. Wow. Cool. Interesting. One significant aspect of this relationship, by the way, you can't get that interested in the passage. You have to keep moving. One significant aspect of the relationship was, so sometimes it is true that with a colon, you're setting up like you want something that follows it. But to the left of that, of a colon, you have to have a complete sentence. One significant aspect of this relationship was, not a complete sentence. So it can't be F. Okay. Relationship was that Susan was perhaps the only reader of Emily's poems in progress. Okay. So I see some commas. I think that no commas are necessary, but let me go ahead and take the time and pause. Okay. One significant aspect of the relationship was pause that Susan, no, we don't need to pause there. All right. Was that Susan, no commas. No commas. Don't put unnecessary. If you don't have a reason for it or a pause doesn't feel right there, don't put a comma. All right. 69. Okay. Letters between the two suggest that Susan might frequently have given feedback on her work, including some of her most famous poems composed at her home in Amherst, Massachusetts. Okay. All right. Letters between the two suggest that Susan might frequently have given feedback on her work, heard feedback on her work. I think that I'm trying to decide if Emily is necessary here. I think her is sufficient. Susan might have given her feedback on, see that her and her. So Emily feedback on her work. I think we do need that noun Emily because we've got her and her. Might have given Emily feedback on her work. Yep. I think we need that noun to make it just more clear. Sometimes it's vague, like what her are we talking about? So yeah, let's go with that. I'm kind of curious to see what happens on that one. Okay. So now on 70, when I see all of these, I'm thinking, ACT likes concise, to the point communication, including some of her most famous poems. We know that we don't care that they're varied in form, style, and line length, and we know she's a good poet, so that's not necessary. Most without obvious rhyme. No, I don't think we're not trying to go there. So I would be interested in F a little bit, but I feel like the fact that it was composed at her home in Amherst Massachusetts, I don't think that is essential to what we're trying to say here, because it's not necessary. I think maybe that was mentioned in the beginning, but like, let's see, does it even mention that? I don't know if it is or not. Okay. But it's not necessary to understand that thought. So it kind of sidetracks a little bit. Okay, we're getting so close. Oh, the power of fast forwarding. You've been able to work through this much faster than I have. Okay. Given that all the choices are true, which one would most clearly describe an interaction between Susan and Emily during Emily's writing process? At one point, Emily sent a draft of her poem safe in their alabaster chambers to Susan, who read the poem. Okay, read the poem. That doesn't tell me much, and it's not that interesting. So that's not the choice. Okay. Ooh, she read the poem. Okay. We're going to most clearly describe an interaction between them. Okay. To Susan, liked the poem tremendously, considered and thought about the poem, praised the poem, but suggested revision. So this is more of an interaction, not just, oh, I read it, thumbs up. But this is an action back and forth. Okay, let's go back and see. At one point, Emily sent a draft of her poem, safe in their alabaster chambers, to Susan, praised the poem, but suggested revisions. Who praised the poem, but yeah, feel good about that. As a result, Emily wrote 2 other versions of the second stanza. Okay, Emily wrote 2 other versions, rewrote 2 other alternate versions. So you're trying to, you don't want to be redundant here. You want to choose. So she wrote 2 other versions, wrote 2 alternate revised versions. No. Versions. Okay. I think it's going to be F, but I want to be I don't want to miss. I've missed 2 already. I don't want to miss any more. Okay. Emily rewrote. So it's not 2 other alternate. No, that's redundant. You're repeating yourself. 2 additional. No. 2. See, I had 2 and additional. That sounds. Wrote 2 alternate revised. No. Okay, because version is. Okay, so I feel pretty good about F. See how you're just repeating yourself? And part of that is to feel pretty comfortable with the vocabulary. Dickinson's last 20 years of letters, many over 1,500 words in length. Okay. All right. So we have to decide, do we need a singular or plural verb here? Are we looking for future tense? What are we trying to do there? Okay. Let's go the whole route of singular and plural. So we have to identify the subject to be able to do that. Okay. Dickinson's last 20 years of letters. Okay. Okay. The subject is not going to be of letters. Nope. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be an adjective. Okay. Years. There's your subject. Okay. Let me clean that up a little bit. Years. Reveal. They put these things around it so that you can kind of be distracted, but you got to think it's not the adjective, it's not the modifiers, and it's not the prepositional phrases. Those are not your subject. Okay. Years. Okay. Years. Is that plural or singular? Plural. Years reveal the breadth and depth of one's connection to the world. Okay, so let's carry on. So close. Okay. So, who are we referring to? We're referring to whose connection? People's connection, her connection, their connection. We're talking about Dickinson's connection to the world through a wide circle of correspondence. All right. So H, last but not least. So we've got on 75, we've got all the words are the same. So this is a comma problem. Perhaps this legacy of letters explains what she meant when she said that her friends were her estate. Okay. Perhaps. So I don't like a comma in between the subject and the verb. No good. But let's pause. Let's try it out and pause it. Perhaps this legacy of letters explains what she meant when she said her friends were her estate. So let's try again. Let's try. So no, I don't like that. Perhaps this legacy of letters. So no, it's doing it again. No comma between your subject and your verb. Perhaps this legacy of letters. No, you're doing it again. I don't like your commas between your subject and the verb. Perhaps this legacy of letters explains. Okay. So this is all about comma usage. If you're going to put a comma there, you've got to have a real reason, not just throwing it. And there's like no reason to add that in there. So let's check. We did it. All right. 61. I'm sure you feel the same way when you finish a test, except for not taking you so long. All right, 61. I don't know why, but I like using blue to grade it. Red ink is tough, isn't it? Okay, and I like to use the thick. All right, 61 is C. Whew. 62, F. Yay. 63, B. 64, F. Okay. Alrighty. 65, D. Yes. 66. I forget which one I was. So there was one that I was really hesitating on. 67, B. Yes. So I should have marked the one. There was one if you remember, I was really hesitant on, and I should have marked that one. 68, G. 69, C. 70, J. 71, D. 72, F. 73, B. I know, all these sound effects, too dramatic. 74, H. 75, D. Sweet victory. Okay, so let's see how your English teacher did. Okie dokie. Okay. So let me share this chart. So you take your raw score you get your number correct, and then, oh, sorry. There you go. There I am, double time. Okay. You do the number correct. There we go. Okay. And then you put in, so on this test, I missed 2. Okay. So I still got a 35. Yay. I feel accomplished. I feel pretty good about that. I was kind of nervous, but there we are. Okay, so I got 73. I would have had to get a perfect score. To get a 36, I would have had to have all 75 correct. But let me kind of, you can pause the video here. I want you to be able to, so this test was given to kiddos, and you can take a look there, see how you did. National average is a 47 correct, 21. Yeah. Let me kind of take a look at, let me show you something else. So just pause this if you want to see that more. And what's kind of interesting on this page, you can see, all right, so you can see like how students performed on this. So graduates from 2005, 2006, and 2007 were given this test. And from those reports, if you got a 34, 35, 36, you're in the top 1% in the nation. Pretty cool. 21, let's see, that would have been in the top 58. Okay. So you could look at it, if you're like, hey, I want to be in the top 10%, like if 100 people were lined up, then I would be in the top 10. That would be making a 28. So that would be pretty remarkable on this particular test. So the top 20%, you could say, would be 25. If you want to be kind of like right in the average, that would be scoring a 20. That's kind of right in the middle of juniors taking this test. All right. So, yeah, what else can I say? Congratulations, you walked with me through my very first recording of these. So it's been my pleasure. I hope you've received some kind of benefit from it, and keep working on those ACT scores. This is Cynthia Head. Bye. Be blessed.